of everything.
Extinction of the Extinction Rebellion.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, join if you've got questions. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
Only if you ask. Only if you ask. Peace and love.
I know
peace
you're
and love,
a celebrity,
peace and
so
love.
it's good to have a celebrity on.
Modine is the celebrity. I'm just a guy. Modine is a celebrity.
Yeah, so I'm just giving information really. October the 7th, Extinction Rebellion are going to have their next iteration, which is a funny kind of word that they've been using it persistently. And basically it's the idea that you have waves rather than doing an occupation like London Occupy, that actually you respect the natural world. And from last year they were saying, well, we're going to gather again in springtime, in April time, and then after that action happened, they said, well, we're going to come back and do a major action in the autumn time. So this is what's is going to happen, and they're going to be more ambitious than last time. They've chosen 12 sites, and I'm going to be involved this time. I haven't really been involved so much, I've been more observing, but I'm going to be involved in focalizing, helping to focalize the regeneration culture, which they're talking about going to be at St. James's Park. So the regeneration culture is an acknowledgement that everyone needs to take time out to relax and to enjoy fellowship in order to be, truly resistant. And so we're going to set up a dome there, and 11-meter dome, and we're going to have a garden. So I know October's the end of the growing season, but actually you can get discounted plants, bedding plants, and we intend to make structures for holding plants so that people can be attracted to a garden. And the prime thing that we want to concentrate on is permaculture as a known kind of technique of growing food as the major positive solution that we need on this planet, and that we need to emphasize the problems around monoculture rather than talking about climate, because climate is something that we don't really know about. I mean, scientists can talk about it, but I don't know about it. Most lay people don't know about it. But we do know that a large amount of the land surface is being used for growing food for us as a species, and not only plants, but animals are being held in captivity. So I've got my activist, let's see. So I've got my activist jacket on.
Oh, tofu never screams.
Yeah, which is really so this year there's also going to be an animal rebellion, which is joining in solidarity with Extinction Rebellion celebration.
Joking.
But the animal rebellion is staying distinct from Extinction Rebellion. So although they're in support of the aims of Extinction Rebellion, they are a distinct entity, and that they don't receive funding from Extinction Rebellion. They have their own funding for office supplies, so they're going to be doing their action. Also, there's going to be a global future space, which I think is going to be a Victoria Gardens, and that is going to have a space for minorities to voice concerns, primarily minorities, to voice concerns about the global south and positive global solutions. So that's what I've got to say. So I think it's great, that's why I'm here at Speaker's Corner, that minorities come and with an open mind to engage in debate with the people of Extinction Rebellion and with the Animal Rebellion. So that's what I've got to say. I'm open to questions.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you know about Hadron Collider?
Oh,
Do you know
that's
about
an
Hadron
interesting one.
Collider?
No.
Well, the
It's
Hadron
about quantum
Collider is
mechanics.
big as the M25. It burns at 10 million volts. Before they ever put the Hadron Collider, my grandson said to me, he said, "Granddad, the world's going to end, the world's going to end." Now the scientists were allowed to start up the Hadron Collider. It burns 10 million volts. It has tens of gallons of hydrogen to cool it down. Right? It's as big as the actual, an underground tunnel train. It's massive. They put it on full power, and it burnt out a 6-mile section. But before the scientists put it on, they said, oh, we don't know what's going to happen. We think the world can implode. And there was a lot of children in schools crying, and News at 10, and everyone reported that. Now, the Hadron Collider, no, the world won't end, but it will affect, because it's like a nuclear explosion. I don't know if you know, it's in CERN.
Okay.
They've got one in America, and it does actually affect the weather.
So when was this? When have they been
Well,
testing
they
this?
test it every so often. You get a lot of freak weather. They used to test atom bombs in the 60s anyway, nuclear bombs, so it's nothing new. All this extinct and that stuff. Now, you know for a fact, I remember my son, he studies all that, Mark, and he said to me, Dad, they'd done an atom bomb test, and what it'd done, they exploded it in space and it stopped the radio frequencies for about 2 hours. So the Hadron Collider, they want to see about the Higgs boson, how the world's created. Now, don't worry about how it's created, just turn it off and leave it as a museum piece. Because when they turned it off, it took about 6 months after they burnt out a 6-mile section of it to fix it. The wires are as massive as an underground tunnel, you know? So I found out the weather forecast people once. I said, Mark, you're the only person to say that about the Hadron Collider. There's one in America and there's one in CERN. Now, don't want to see about how the world's created. You want to turn that off, otherwise you're creating drought, you're creating ice, snow, and things like that. So why hasn't Rebellion sort of into talking to the scientists?
Yeah, I agree with you that the Extinction Rebellion people had quite a limited kind of resource. I mean, they started off with 15 core members, and some of them were academics, some of them were permaculturalists, some of them were business people, some of them were just young hippies, and so their kind of field of expertise was limited.
But you've got to admit, when someone like the scientists said, we don't know what will happen when we switch this on, the Earth could implode, how comes I was allowed to do that experiment?
Yeah.
And yet no one ever speaks out about the world. It's everything, it's a whole.
Yeah.
We all live on the world, so we've got to manage it, but them scientists were allowed to do that.
Yeah.
They reported it, so it must have been pretty serious, and my grandson says to me, oh, the world's going to end, the world's going to end. And I remember when he was at school and children, they reported it, and what happened was, a lot of children were crying and people, no, the world won't end, you'll just create freak weather. You understand? Because the world has got a way of sorting itself out. Whatever we do to it, whether you let an atom bomb off, you let an atom bomb off in the sea, the French were doing testing, and then what happened? You get an earthquake. Just like shove apnea, you know, the shock waves have got to go somewhere. Even if you drill down in the sea lights up and it contaminates. But see, Hadron Collider, no one ever speaks about it. I'm the only one I know when they've had it on. We've had a lot of freak weather lately. And if it had the power to the scientists to end the world, you know, the world implode, no, it must have the power to affect. Do you understand? So,
well, all of these technologies are driven by the desire to control and manipulate, and it's all army technology,
Exactly. Well,
and then it's converted to domestic technology. But actually, you're quite right. They never carry out any kind of biological surveys to map what kind of effects these technologies might have on the human species.
I ask you a question. No one knows. They talk about the magnetic field, right? I'm not really all into this. I'm not into this, oh, don't open a packet of crisps, don't drive this car, don't do that. But what I am into is them scientists obviously thought there was a risk. And that risk must have been so great because they thought the world would implode. No, I didn't. I said to my grandson, Nick, he's an actor, I said, no, Nick, ain't going to end. But we had freak weather. And do you remember when we had mauve? Do you remember the mauve, like an eclipse in 2017?
Okay.
It was a strange light.
I remember the eclipse.
No, this was a mauve light. And I remember...
This was a solar eclipse or the lunar eclipse?
it was like this mauveness. They said it was like sand that got in the way got in the way of the sun or something like that from the Sahara. But it was a mauve light. And I remember going over to where my wife's buried in Greenacres, and that mauveness, I mean, I stopped my car, I pulled over and looked at it, and it was like a foreboding sort of thing. A lot of people thought the world was going to end. No, I didn't think the world was going to end, but you could feel it was strange, the power in light, if you want to believe in that. You know, it's a strange feeling. It wasn't just light.
Yeah.
You know, I've nearly died twice. So, you know, I've seen near-death experiences. I don't go around going, oh, the world's going to end, this is going to end. But we can make a change.
Yeah.
You know, we can make a change in a nice way, in a good way. We can work together and understand that we've got a lovely world, and the more we destroy it, the more harder it is to.
We're talking about the
What
sand.
change do you want to make?
Change I like to make. For a start, we treat human beings. I'm a humanitarian. We start to treat human beings as human beings before we go out in space. If we haven't got this world right here, we haven't got it right there. Do you understand? It's checking water out. I mean, they smashed the satellite into the moon. They wanted to put an atomic bomb on the moon. Imagine what that could do. Who knows? And that's in the faith of science. See, we can make it a better world. It doesn't have to be a bad world. We can make a beautiful world, and we should cherish it. It's not about rioting or murdering people and wars and all that. It's about being a humanitarian and bringing people together.
What you're saying
peace.
about
Yeah, but how are you gonna do it?
Pardon?
How are you going to do it?
We do it by what you're doing here, talking.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the only way you can do
I
it.
mean, what you're saying about the sand,
Yeah.
for example, as being a strong, like, symbolic kind of resonance. The practical cause of it is deserts, and deserts are caused by monoculture.
But don't forget, a desert,
human activity.
the whole world
Deserts
was full
by
of
monoculture.
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah.
But don't forget that where you
So-
see a desert, that was the sea. The whole world was
Yeah.
covered in water,
Like the Sahara
and it
used to be
receded.
big lakes.
It receded and locked up in ice, like the
Yeah.
North Pole and the South Pole.
Yeah.
So to think the whole world was sea, and when you've got undulations really deep, you know, I'm not into all that. I think we should teach people in how to be normal. Do you understand? Normal and not sort of like, oh, you have to be like this, we have to be like that. You know, because you get a lot of people. We can make it a better world. When he asked me how can we change it, we change it by everyone coming together,
Yeah, consensus.
rather than warring and arguing.
Okay, but
I mean, I'll give you a
that's
friend.
fine. That sounds very nice.
Well, I'll give you something. I'll give you something for nothing. Kalashnikov, right? He invented a machine gun. When he invented a machine gun, it was a Russian machine gun. What did he say on his deathbed? He said, I wish I never ever invented it. Nobel invented dynamite. He saw what dynamite could do, but it blew people to bits.
Einstein, wasn't it? As
He
well.
also blew mountains to bits. To
No,
build
yeah,
the
but he
tunnels.
was building. He was building with it, but he was so appalled at inventing dynamite, he couldn't ship back the bodies. He shipped back the skeletons back, the Chinese, because they were building railways in America. He made him a lot of money, but he was disgusted at what it did.
Okay.
You understand?
Exactly. It all
He-
depends on the way it's used.
No, he learnt that, but that's why the Nobel Peace Prize was invented. He realised that he discovered dynamite, and it's just like the destruction, what it did. It was good, yeah, it blew rocks out, but you get it sweating on a hot day, it blew you to bits. And that's why he invented the Nobel Peace Prize. So we can make it a better world. Don't have to be bad. Blessed is the peacemaker. I'm Rock and Roll Mark, or Lord Rock and Roll Mark. That's who I am. But
you do know that in the world there's many different factions who have many different interests in the
Yeah,
world.
exactly.
They want
I
to
understand.
achieve different things.
And that's
Now,
why-
how are you going to make people with absolutely
Well, we shouldn't
contradictory
always-
interests or even
well,
ideologies
what we should do.
play together?
Well,
how
what
are you
we
going to
do,
make them?
we don't. Or it's like saying, right, one person's dead. Now 1 million people got to die. You don't have that attitude. You have the attitude where you work with people. If they want their culture, you let them have their culture. If this person wants their culture, you let them have their culture. That way, we get like a coat of many colours. You understand?
Okay.
We get a collage instead of just looking at one picture. I mean, look.
Sure, but
If
some
I said
cultures
you-
are aggressive to
If
others.
I said to you, what do you know about Winston Churchill?
But Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
Well, first of
Right.
all, he was a drunk.
No.
Secondly of all,
not true, really.
he was a
No.
drunk. He was a
Well,
drunk.
you know
He
about him,
was a
right? You know
drunk.
about Winston, right?
No, it's just trivia. You want me to say things about Winston
No,
Churchill? I
no,
can make a
no,
list of what I
no.
know about him.
Well, what do you
It's
know
just
roughly?
trivia.
What do you
Okay.
know about?
Roughly.
Yeah, roughly.
He was ruling Great Britain during the Second World War. He made many important decisions in the country. He kind of organized the country to resist against Nazi Germany on the sea, because that was the only way the British were going to not get invaded.
Well, you know
by
about the
Germans.
wilderness years.
About the
The wilderness years.
wilderness years.
Yeah, Churchill.
an
Before
artist,
he,
wasn't he?
before he
He
ever
paintings.
exactly.
Oh, Churchill.
He was a painter.
Okay, yeah.
Did you know he loved bricklaying? I've done
Okay,
bricklaying.
sure.
He loved bricklaying. That was one of his.
You see his place. Have you been at his place?
He was
What's it
also a
called?
manic depressive.
His place. What's
His
that
black-
place?
Che-
National Trust.
Well, you're talking
place.
about.
Okay, sure.
You're talking about.
Near Westrum.
Oh, what's it called? He was a manic depressive. He got a black dog.
That's
day.
where he built
Yeah,
the
yeah,
walls at that place.
Yeah, but the walls are nothing new because you had the Berlin Wall, you've got Hadrian's Wall, and you've also got Great War of
Great War
China.
of
But he did the
Nothing
brickying himself. He did the. He actually did. He wasn't a very good bricky actually.
No, but you don't have to be. So long, but so long as he got therapeutic out of it.
Yeah,
You
that's
see,
what
we
he was
don't.
doing,
It's like
yeah.
saying, I don't want you to do art because I say you're not good enough.
Yeah.
So long as you're enjoying it and you're not
He
hurting
wasn't
no
the
one.
best artist either, actually. But
Art is about self-expression, surely.
yeah, sure.
Yeah,
but there
exactly.
is some technical aspects.
Because what
as
he
well.
might like and what you
judge.
might like make two different things.
That's true.
And
Yeah,
what I might like.
Yeah.
So we come together with the understanding of you like that art, he likes this art, I like this art, or I might like it all.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Abstract.
Anyway, look at it. Look at his artwork. It's quite. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
but
think
where,
what
where
we're
are you
doing
leading
here.
with this?
Why am I here?
No. Where are you leading the conversation with the example of?
Well, what
Winston
would you like me to
Churchill's
say, and
art?
I'll answer it for you.
No, I don't know. You asked me if
Right,
I know
I
Winston
say
Churchill.
this. I say this. When you've got a Hadron Collider, people say about saving the world, right? Before you do that, first of all, you've got to stop. You've got to stop atom bomb tests in the sea. France have stopped it now because the shock waves carry right around the world and you get an earthquake after it. It's the same as the Hadron Collider. When they stick it on, they stuck it on full power and it burnt out a 6-mile section. And when it burnt that 6-mile section out, you know, you had freak weather and it took about 6 months to fix it.
But you were talking about the wilderness years, Churchill's wilderness
Yeah, well,
years.
Churchill.
I got a question for you.
Well, as Winston would say, what would he say? This is what he say. Never so much has been given by so few. We shall fight them on the beaches. We shall fight them. We shall never surrender. I had to do a job.
You know,
Quite good, actually.
No, but you see, but really, Winston was. He loved. Did you know Winston loved food?
He was a bit overweight.
Well,
to
it
be
was
honest.
pretty obvious. he loved food.
No, but what did he do? Winston, he said, if say like the waiter brought him some food, he'd say, leave the bottle of wine there, and he'd have his food in a pudding basin. He used to gorge out on food because he got comfort.
And
Comfort
cigars,
eating.
and whiskey.
Anyway,
Why
drunk.
shouldn't
Is that
but why shouldn't you?
Oh, thank you.
Why shouldn't you? You probably love things. When you go home tonight, you might say, I'll have a load of cups of coffee or I'll have whatever I want.
Find that
And so
hard to
that's-
believe. I don't really drink much.
All right, what do you do then? What do you do when you go home?
Yeah,
do you
what
listen
do
to
you
some
do?
music?
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, you unwind and you relax.
I watch something. I write.
that's-
I make
yeah.
drawings. I
Music.
sculpt. I
yeah.
make
Play
different
music.
things.
Bricklaying?
You
Is
play
bricklaying
music?
in there or not?
No, I don't do. I don't do bricklaying.
Why don't you? You
Not
should
my
go
thing.
there.
No,
You see,
not my thing.
We've
no.
got to have
Decent
a diversity of.
No, I would be too much of a Ukrainian stereotype if I did bricklaying.
No,
Do you know the
see, we're
first
laughing.
castles, the
And do you know
first
the best thing?
brick-built castles in the UK, right? We
you
didn't
know-
have any bricklayers.
Yeah.
We had to get Hurstmonceau Castle, right, down on the south coast. They had to ship in all the Belgians because they knew how to do it. We didn't
lay
have any
bricks.
labourers.
But you know what
We
we've
couldn't
just
do it.
done here? All of us have done here. We've laughed, and that's the best medicine ever that you can get is laughter. Laughter, if you can laugh at yourself, it's great. It's the best medicine ever. I love to laugh, and I like laughing with people.
So that's one of the best.
Pavlov, we're missing a serious question. So,
Come here.
well, it's going to be involving these guys too.
Right, go on.
Well, it's a rather deep one that is very difficult to answer without thinking about it for a while, I think. So we're talking about saving the world, right? Talk about improving the world or not.
Yeah, I
what,
came with the subject of Extinction Rebellion. So
That's right.
just around the environment, I guess.
sure.
Positive solutions.
So a question that is pertinent to ask, but it's going to be tricky, is why should we preserve the Earth?
Why shouldn't we then?
Why is life worth preserving? This is a philosophical question, right?
Well, if it wasn't
what I
worth,
mean?
If it wasn't worth preserving, you wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be here. Because your forefathers preserved whatever they did, the land, and they worked on the land. That's why the past is becoming the future. People realising you need trees, you need water. You can't keep packing people in like sardines. Because as they say in New York, no, not my words, the New York police, because there's so many buildings, they say when the heat goes up in New York, the bodies start falling. And that's why you get a lot of people used to undo the hydrants, to let all the water down the street, cool the tarmac down, because people drove them mad. You need things like this.
I understand. I understand you. My question is slightly deeper, but I understand what you're saying. I mean, like, we have a large focus upon, let's say, preserving the environment, reducing pollution, presumably reducing suffering and things like this. I'm interested in the philosophical aspect of it, the actual depth, the core. Maybe just take the Extinction Rebellion and stuff. I've tried to ask this question to numerous people, and it's hard to get a solid answer because it's a very difficult question. But if you want to preserve this, you assume that life's worth preserving. Why?
I think we're only guided to that by enjoyment in life. I mean, that's fundamentally, for me, my experience is that I'm a father, so I have children. Is that didn't just happen, randomly. It came out of love and enjoyment, and it also came in an environment that was based on community. Because I go to rainbow gatherings, which you can look at, which are back to nature gatherings where we get water from the spring, where we come together in a circle around the fire, we sing together and all that kind of enjoyment, and that's how the children came. So for me, it's linked our desire to live and to be through joy.
Okay.
And then the deer and the rabbits come out of the forest and you pet them
Yeah.
with their heads.
We've even had badgers. We've had badgers coming out of the woods. They're actually fed by hand.
So you don't think it's by chance that you have that love, right?
No. I think it's choices, ethical choices that led me to find that culture.
I love it. I wish
And
you'd
what
come
is
up here,
your
though. There's a lot of
ethical
nice things
code?
happening up here.
Well,
I've come up here late.
I did have the privilege of an
Any chance to come
education,
up?
so I
Maybe
studied
I
French
can
and
shut as well.
Portuguese, and I ended up in Brazil, and the
All right, then
university
I'll
was on
meet you up
strike,
there. I'll meet
and I
you.
met a very inspirational human rights lawyer, and he
That's
took
fine,
us to
that's
the
fine,
shanty
yeah.
towns to see the
All right,
favelas,
then, Gabriel.
and
I'll
documented
see.
how people are being abused,
Yeah.
people who are squatting on the periphery of towns are being abused by police and landowners. And my study was on the soybean production in the Amazon basin, and that was back in '93.
Quantos anos viveste no Brasil?
Um ano. Quantos tempo? Ano. No Nordeste.
Spent 1 year in
Yeah,
Brazil.
in Portuguese. Yeah, in Portuguese I was just asking how much time. Anyway, look. Okay, you got your moral code from your life, from your nurture, from the way you were raised. Is that what you're saying?
I would say so. Yeah.
So if you were raised in a different way, your moral code would be different.
My parents were by no means hippies. They weren't aligned to an environmental movement or anything like that.
Yes.
But I believe they had love for me, and I believe that gave me the courage, or something. I mean, like for example, the language it's unusual for an Englishman to learn languages. It's more likely that a woman would study languages in this country. So the language departments around the UK are full of women. So it's unusual for me, for whatever reason, to have studied that. To have studied that in the first place.
Because of the
It's a matter of
patriarchy.
practice.
Well, excuse me, are you part of Extinction Rebellion?
Well, I'm kind of focalising because now I wasn't for a year. I was sat on the bridges and I did do swarming, and I was involved in helping to a degree, but I didn't really identify myself. I went to one debrief meeting where I asked where the money was and how much was there and was it available to everyone. But apart from that, I wasn't.
You said
really
you want to be the accountant, yeah?
No, I didn't really. I just want to know who was the accountant and whether it was but there was no working groups on finances during the winter. So that made me a little bit critical. And then I thought the April was an absolute shambles. I mean, particularly the toilets. Considering how much money they had, you would have thought that they'd have at least got the toilets together. But they ran out of gas. They had hundreds of thousands. I had to walk
Gas
from
for cooking?
for cooking,
Hot
right?
water?
Yeah. Listen, I went into Parliament Square just randomly for the second weekend.
Yeah.
And first of all, there was supposed to be a meeting. It didn't happen. So I went to the middle to the
This was
to the
about 6
cycle.
months ago.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
the cycle stage, and I said there was supposed to have been a meeting. There was no meeting. Should we call a meeting? And then we had a talking circle, 50 people. The people in the different corners saying, "Oh, I'm glad we can actually talk, about how we're feeling for a change, rather than what are we going to do?" Because the whole Extinction Rebellion is all about their kind of general assemblies. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Rather than about how we feel.
Yeah.
And so they were very relieved to have that opportunity to say, well, after a week, actually, we're not feeling that great. We're quite tired. The toilets are shit. All that kind of stuff. Yeah, but I'm glad to have that opportunity to say it. Next morning, I go into the kitchen and there's a queue, and I'm waiting for my porridge, and there's no one stirring the pot. So I start stirring the pot, and then people are asking me for food, so I'm doling out the food. Then I'm on the other side of the
waiting for
counter,
my
I'm saying,
caviar.
and I'm saying, who's the focaliser? Who's? And there's no one there. There's no coordinator. I say, okay,
It's not
right.
like a cooperative thing.
No, well, it's just complete chaos.
Yeah, but that's
and
not
so,
good.
And then I go, so who's got the number for Waterloo Bridge? No one. Who's got the number for Oxford Circus? No one. Who's got the number
they closed
for
down
Marble
Waterloo
Arch?
Bridge,
No
didn't
one.
they?
So I said, well, you've got to phone the centre. I ring the centre. They haven't got a clue. They refer me to a friend of mine who comes down, who's looking really burnt out and grumpy. He says, no, there's no gas. I told you before there wasn't going to be gas. We have to do cold food for people at lunch. And then I have to, by myself, walk up to Waterloo Bridge with a trolley and
Distributing
no,
food.
to get the gas.
Oh.
So I said, they'd just finished about 10 o'clock at night. They take the gas
They
off.
closed Waterloo
So
Bridge
what
for
a
about
gas.
a week, didn't they?
No, 10 days.
10 days,
So
right?
then I'm putting it on the trolley, walk it back to Parliament Square. We start cooking at 11 o'clock at night. You know, for 400 people who've been resisting the police on lock-ons, there's no food, you know. It's all right if you've got money to go to prep, but what if you haven't got any money? You know? So what I'm saying is it was a shambles, but there are a lot.
Organisation was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, they're all administrators.
But the
so it's
only
not
thing is, though, like you said, when everyone's all over the place, don't know what they're doing, to work as a cooperative and a collective is much better.
Yeah,
Definitely,
I mean,
because then it's not all just on you.
yeah. They're a lot more decentralised now, and the budgets have been distributed more, so I think it's going to be a lot more effective.
To me, the most important thing is you've got to eat 3 times a day.
And the toilets.
Well,
the
you
toilets
know,
have got to be
you know, an
decent.
army marches on its stomach.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
You know where the tin
And the best way to spread disease is having bad sanitation.
But do you know where the tin can come from?
Which tin can?
The tin can the tin can.
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
the mess can. Yeah.
Well, you know, no, the tin can with a tin opener.
Oh, for the tin, the army supplies. Yeah.
No, but it came from Napoleon's army because they put their food in a wine bottle and they marched on their stomach. You see, and by marching on their stomach, they was able to, carry on longer. They didn't have bad food. They didn't get ill.
Yeah.
They had energy, like you said. You need 3 meals a day.
Yeah,
That's it.
And so you have to know what you're talking about. You don't talk a load of old claptrap or rubbish or someone's not going to listen to you. But
Well, all the funding, with the Extinction Rebellion, a lot of it's gone to media. A lot of it's gone to hiring really posh, office buildings to start with.
They have an office, do they? I didn't know.
Oh yeah, they've got an office.
I think advertising is about 22 billion
Yeah.
every year. So you're in a very small minority, you and
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that you're not doing right. I wouldn't say you're doing wrong, but it's good if you've got a collective.
Yeah,
You've got a
yeah.
cooperative because you can meet people, make them. I don't know what it is about comedy. When you put something in comedy, people listen. But if you say, "Don't do that," I don't want you to do that.
That's right.
Absolutely not. But you put it in comedy, people listen. I don't
It's
know
like
why.
the Fool, isn't it? He's allowed to say anything.
Absolutely. You know what happened this morning, don't you? I went out this morning. I saw these absolute damn bloody, what do they call it? Anarchists and political Russians, what do they call themselves? James said to me they call themselves Extinct Rebellion or whatever. I didn't know what he was talking about. I said to him, the next time I see you, you can come over to Manor House and tell me about this Extinct Rebellion, And he did. He actually came over with all his friends,
Were you in it a year ago?
People
or-
listen,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they don't
kind of,
listen
yeah.
if you tell them, go,
Straight.
don't
Yeah.
do that,
They don't.
But
I mean,
first time I'd ever heard of it was when they 10-day event and they closed the bridges down.
But
yeah,
is
but
it-
no. The first
been going
event
for a
was
long time.
October, November last year, so it's the anniversary basically. And
so it's coming
they
up.
shut down 4 bridges just for a day.
Right.
And then they had a thing
In
up
London, this is,
Yeah,
yeah?
and then they had a thing in Parliament Square.
But why not have him here so you don't need to shut
Yeah,
down?
well, they were here last
Otherwise
time,
people,
wasn't
they
it?
get people to hate you then.
Yeah, exactly. This is
They
what
get
people
the
are saying.
hatred going. They
You
go,
don't
"Oi,
need-
you, I want to go bloody work.
Yeah.
You Extinct Rebellion.
The thing is, they say that disruption in central London is going to cause economic disruption, but it's not really. It's just going to piss a lot of people off.
Make a lot of people angry.
If you really wanted to cause economic disruption, you go to the
city.
slaughterhouses, you go to the ports, you go
Yeah.
to those kind of places. You don't come into the city
Go to the
and stop
docks.
all the tourists.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people not in the know. When if I said to a youngster, it may be in Extinct Rebellion, I said to him, "Oh dear, we're going to go to the abattoir." Oh, that's a lovely place. They don't know it's a slaughterhouse.
No, yeah.
It's like I said to someone,
they don't. They put it in the French language, don't they?
do you know what CAF's short for? calf's calf, isn't it? Calf's calf. But they don't know it's short for
They
cafeteria.
should call the abattoir the kill shop or the killing place. That might make it a bit more obvious.
I did speak to someone the other day, and they said about leather. I said, well, look, once the animal's dead, it'd be an insult not to use the leather.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
But
Exactly.
you know where the biggest exportation of leather is? It's from India. You
Yeah.
know, and that's where the biggest
And the
money is
sacred
made.
cow and all that.
Yeah, so it's not a secondary product; it's a primary product because they
Yeah.
don't eat the meat. Well, they probably do now. You know.
So
but-
what happens now to the meat in India then?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they do
Well, they
eat
do
a lot
feed it
more
to-
meat,
feed
but they
it to
probably
the
export it. Probably.
Birds? Oh, I see what you
Yeah,
mean.
probably as well.
Yeah. All these sort of things. I mean, if you've got a cooperative, people are willing to work.
That's
And
the main thing.
Yeah.
And there's forming. You'd as well be doing it in the parks. You know, you
I
don't
think
need
you're
to do
better
it
off
in the
here. I
road.
really do. Because
And
that
then,
way
yeah.
you're not upsetting people
Yeah.
going to work.
You
saying-
draw people in, don't you?
Yeah.
Then they
Because
see
then
what's
otherwise
going
the
on.
media is going to attack you and go,
Yeah.
you're keeping us from our work. You're stopping us from doing
Yeah.
this. You're the reason the trains are late.
You need to have emphasis on celebration as well, because the last thing you want, if you've been at a shitty job all day,
Yeah.
and you're not getting enough sleep,
Yeah.
is see a whole load of people who are going, no, no, no. You don't want that, do you? You want to have a bit of like
What's your
celebration.
name anyway? I'm Mark. Rock
I'm
and roll
Teo,
Mark. Lord
isn't
Rock
it?
and roll Mark.
Yeah,
And what's his name?
Derek.
Derek. Lovely to meet you, Derek.
Nice one, Derek. Yeah, bless. That was a good one. Yeah,
But
anyway.
it's nice that we can talk. I think it's a
Yeah.
conversation. They say the art of conversation is dead.
Yeah.
But it's not dead when you're talking.
Yes,
and-
it is with the youngsters, isn't it? They've got the
Yeah,
iPhones
they
down
can't blame
there.
me.
Yeah.
They'll have a go at you.
Yeah, we don't have it with our children.
No, but
Not in our generation.
No,
no, I love conversation.
Yeah.
Because conversation is about everything. I mean, you know,
Well, you see things from a different point of view, don't you?
That's
yeah,
it.
it's
Opens
everything.
your mind to different
Yeah.
ideas.
With the screen, you just look for what you want to look for.
Yeah, and you believe
you
everything
just see
you see.
yourself.
You think, yeah, it
You
must
always
be right, I've got
see
it there. Yeah,
yourself.
it's true. It is true. It's
No,
not true.
yeah, but you see, it's like that thing that you. What's that little thing? Oh,
iPad.
no, the little thing that speaks, a little speaker. It was a big
Oh,
one now.
Syrian. Syrian or something.
No, what's that thing?
Alexia.
That's it.
Alexa.
Alexia, play that record. Alexia, tell my wife I can't stand her anymore. Alexia, I'm telling her I'm getting divorced.
It's like
It's
personal
ridiculous.
secretary, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's diminished
Yeah,
responsibility.
but somewhere you have to program it though, obviously, because, you know. Alexia, tell me that I've got to go down and speak this cold air in the morning, all right?
Does Alexia answer back?
I don't know, it should do, shouldn't it?
To me, it's toys.
Alexia, I want a
It's gadgets,
conversation with
isn't
you. Alexia, you're a bloody machine.
it? I put away my toys when I grew up.
No, but you know the sad thing is,
What?
what they're saying is certain old people, they have no one to talk to, they're going to put them on a tag. So if they go on the one, no, this is true.
My dad's
And they wake
like
up
that.
to Alexia. They've got no one to bloody talk to. Alexia, please talk to me.
You know, my dad, right? He's going through his geriatric phase, right?
yeah.
He's surrendered. Basically.
How old is he?
He's 81.
He's
Right.
not surrendered, he's still going.
No, he's happier than he ever was, right? I tell you what, he goes, he's physically still okay. He had an accident, but he's physically better than he was 4 years ago.
He can walk in
He's
that,
going down the river to the quiet point of town where my mum's got the allotment. And he's walking, and that's where all the older people are, because there's no
They all
traffic
meet up there, yeah.
And there's my dad, and he's talking to this old bloke, you know, because he was brought up in that town, or he did his farming in that town. He's talking to this old bloke, and I go, oh, he looks like you've probably known him for ages, you know, he's talking.
Yeah.
I go up to my dad and say, who's that then? And he said, I don't know. And I'll say, what were you talking about? He said,
You know what I'd be
remember.
reckoning? No, listen, camera. You know what I'd be reckoning? That extinct, what they call it? They calls it the extinct rebellion.
That's
I've
right.
had a tractor older than them. My tractor's about 50-year-old. You know.
They are called-
Starts up in the morning.
yeah.
No word of a lie. I don't tell you a
They're
lie.
calling-
Without a tractor, eh?
I
they
don't
call
know, but the only thing is that extinct rebellion. If they come to my farmyard, I'm going to give them short shrift. You
Well,
know
they
that.
came to
If
the...
you had a farmyard, I'd be impressed, yeah.
No,
the
but I've
Extinction
got
Rebellion.
a lot of Extinction Rebellion people
They
coming
went.
over.
Is it
They
because
went.
I-
They
Walking
went
across
down.
my
They
land.
went to the farmers. They went
Yeah,
to
I
the
come from
farmers
Somerset,
convention.
Somerset.
Yeah.
They went to the farmers convention, Extinction Rebellion,
Yeah.
and they said, "Look, this is your future as well. You know, you ought to come to London. Bring your tractors along,
Yeah.
right?" And then one of the farmers go, "Oh, we'll drive our animals in." And then the Extinction go, "Well, we do have quite a lot of vegans, you know, and they might take issue with that. But come along, have the debate, you know." And it's
Yeah.
like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, tell them you're a farmer and you only grow corn on the cob. You don't have any animals
Yeah,
on your
exactly,
farm,
yeah,
all right?
yeah.
Well, you could be You could be having chickens. You could be a
Yeah.
chicken farmer.
Well,
Could be
but-
anything, couldn't it?
Exactly, but the point is, in France, the farmers are doing this. They're bringing in
Well,
their tractors, but they haven't so
Epping
far.
Forest is Epping Forest.
Right.
Is it man-made or is it a natural phenomenon? Epping Forest.
Well, it depends if you consider humans as part of the natural world.
Well, it's a planted forest.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be Henry VIII's hunting ground, but it wasn't
Well,
just
I
that.
mean, squirrels plant trees as well, don't
Oh
they?
yeah, and their nuts fall off. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you see, Henry VIII's that was for his Tudor buildings and galleons, and it was his hunting ground. Plus,
Oh, yeah.
it would have been a working forest with
Yeah,
wild
like the
boar.
Ashdown
Wild-
Forest was
yeah,
the same. They had the
yeah,
big
yeah.
paling, and they
Yeah.
had the rabbits there in the Roman times, but they had
Well,
the
you know,
the
his
wild
right-hand
boar.
man was, don't you? His right-hand man was,
What, the
Cardinal
religion-
Wolsey.
Yeah, right. Okay.
and my
yeah.
name's Wolsey.
Oh, okay.
I know I've got a coat of arms, but I'm skint.
Right.
But I really have got a coat of arms, but I'm skint.
What? So you come from that line, is it?
Yeah, I have got one. Yeah. My coat of arms says victorious wolf, because we've got wolves in our coat of arms, except no tyrants. You know? And I've got about 5 of them, but the original one is that one I just told you.
So you're a
But
wolf.
well, old dogs are wolves, aren't they?
Yeah, right,
They're
yeah.
derived from that, you know.
Yeah, they're either hunting animals or dogs of war,
But
wasn't it?
it would be lovely, wouldn't it? One thing I heard a child say, and it was the most cleverest thing he said. His dad was a farmer, and he said, this is what he said, this young child. He said, we could plough up some of the old tarmac, and turn it back into farmland. That was what this young kid, I thought, he's got a point there. Because if you can't plant it up forest or certain stuff that's not needed anymore, like you can plant it back up. You
Well,
know?
they say these roads wouldn't last very long if you didn't have traffic going over it.
Yeah, weeds
then,
would push
yeah,
it up
they
and
push
come
it
back.
up.
Yeah,
It wouldn't
I've seen
take
it,
long
yeah.
before you got
I've seen that
closer.
actually done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to have to go now. My tractor's on double yellow lines.
Oh dear.
This guy's after
It's
it.
lovely to meet you.
Yeah.
Rock and roll, Mark. Lord
Nice
rock and roll,
one.
Mark.
Thank you.
Bless.
Thank you.
Right, I think we're done, isn't it? Yeah, I think we're done.
Are we done?
Oh, nice one.
Done to return. Yeah, lovely. And what was going to say?
From your man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Intellectual, man.
Listen.
I can't argue with that.
Fucking foolish economic migrant.
I know. Ignoramus.
But the nice thing is, we can laugh at ourselves. You can't laugh, you take it serious, and you get in trouble.
Yeah, man, if you get upset from the insults of others, you give them the power to